timely retreat.
Hey, everyone. If you did not catch my earlier Facebook Live, please do so. I'm working really hard on my team always tells me just make them shorter. So my non-interviews are shorter, and I really just emphasize the importance of bringing your daughters. And if not your daughters to the retreat, then grab a friend, grab your CA, grab a neighbor, grab your sister, grab somebody and come and let's heal together. And no greater person to talk about healing than the boss of Healing the Healer herself, Dr. Kristina. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be with you. This is going to be an amazing program retreat. So timely, so needed. Yes, chills in every way. I am so excited for this.
I know. I really and truly have chills. And you know, part of what I want you all to gather from this interview today is how can I draw on Dr. Kristina's experience for my own healing, as well as for those that I know? And let's all be really clear that healing begins in our mind.
Yeah.
Right? Healing begins in our mind. And that's the thing that I love about this retreat is that we're going to talk about the science part of it, the clinical aspect on Friday. And then Saturday, we're going into what is our soul purpose and really getting involved in, and Demi and I will be helping all of you really realize our survival constraints. And our survival constraints have done a brilliant job protecting us, but many times in that protection as well, they hold us back. And the best way I can explain it is, as moms will all get this, that I don't want my kids to have to suffer. I don't want them to have to struggle. I don't want them to have to experience one moment of heartache. So I'm going to do everything for them. I'm going to put them in a bubble to make sure no one can say something that would hurt them, to make sure that they don't fall down, to make sure all of these things. And yet their whole potential is stripped from them because we put them in this bubble. So I'm going to be very upfront and tell you all, not I want to see you there, you need to be there. So Kristina, why are you on the same page with me about there? Like, why is this the time women must come?
I think it comes back to, for women, what we know is that women, especially moms, have been most impacted through this whole pandemic. Because the moms are being asked to take care of the kids, to make up for the fact that the schools weren't able to pivot, which I'm not blaming them at all. But then they still are working and they're trying to hold a family together. And often when women are trying to hold everyone else together, they're doing it at their breaking points and they're not taking care of themselves. And it's something that I'm totally guilty of. I believe all of us have been guilty of. The secret is to learn to move on from that and learn from that experience. But right now there's a crisis. There's a mental health crisis. There's a suicide crisis. There's an alcohol crisis. There's an opioid crisis because of this. And we go, and then women are healers. Women are the ones that are our glue, our connection pieces. And this is where, if we can take care of ourselves first, when you take care of yourself first, then you can serve others. And you can come from a place of loving service because you have something to give and it doesn't strip you away.
And showing up authentically, right? Because like how often, and I've said this too, like, I'm really tired, but I can keep going. I know I'm empty, but I can keep going. I know I'm empty, but I have people to serve. I know I'm empty, but, right? And we can only lie to ourselves for so long. And even if you can keep going, there's a cost. So let's talk about, what have you learned on this incredible journey? And if you would just take us back 3 years, 4 years, a few years, what's happened?
So I had, so I will say it was diagnosed. So last year I went through a really painful, emotional 2018, really tough stuff. Early 2019, I found out and got a diagnosis of cancer. It was an early catch of breast cancer, but when we further tested the cancer, it's extremely aggressive, extremely resistant, extremely mutative. It is definitely something that was not to mess around with. Oh, I love it. And so when I look at this, it was a heartbreak. It was devastating. And at the same time, I knew something wasn't right. It's like I've had for years that I've said, I do all the right things. I live the chiropractic lifestyle. I am clean in how I eat. I work on myself. I take care of myself, and I overwork. I will totally bring that into it. And it was just one of my things weren't adding up. And so I knew, like, I had this knowingness that there's something that wasn't right, and it was big. And so that's why I kept on seeking out. It was like this time in my life that was like, enough's enough. I need to find the right provider. And I was very much led spiritually to a naturopath. And I like found her by knocking on her door, not even knowing she was there. Like, it was just like I was supposed to show up. And once the diagnosis came in and the devastation starts to like, it sits in, it has to be there, and you have to mourn. You have to have that time with it. I will say that. But very quickly I pivoted, going, okay, what do we do? Because I'm young, my kids are young. Like, what do we need to do about this? And what I learned in the process, the quick snippets type of thing that I'll share and go further into, is that I learned that it's very much what you just talked about. We give to everyone else. We say yes, 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 rather than realizing when is it appropriate to say no? When do we put ourselves first like we should? Like, I really learned that my practice will survive. I learned that my life will go on. I learned that my kids will be okay. It's like I learned those things by having to take this drastic pause. Like, I went to the practice, and within a 5-minute decision, I went from seeing about 80% of the patient base to seeing 0% of the patient base. And the practice did great. Now, it did great because I had systems and procedures in place as well. That all being said, I just gave it to the universe and said, it's time. And it's time for me to take care of me at the deepest level, because I haven't done that for myself. And I have to now make up for the years that I hadn't put myself first.
So this is a great segue. So on, I do a mastermind with coaches from all over the world, and we do it on Wednesdays. And so we were working on, like, what are some of our own standards whereby we engage with individuals? And so this is perfect. Kristina and I didn't even talk about this before, but like, you'll see how beautifully it all comes together. I love having relationships with individuals who say no when they feel that way versus halfway yes or an obligatory yes. Mm-hmm. Saying no without excuses, because it's really easy to say no and then to have all of this justification, right? Or saying no and then having all of this appeasement so that you'll accept my no, versus just like checking in, like, actually it's a no for me. And I'm good with that. Now I'm okay. Like, it's a no for me, because my standard is anything less than 100% yes is a no. And I won't give you anything less than that. That's not who I am. So let's go back to the knowingness. Mm-hmm. You stated before we went live and while we were live, I knew something was wrong, but.
Right. Yes, so I have to say, I got to tap on, because what you just said with saying a no, I learned this and I love this statement, and I've owned it. No is a complete sentence.
Period.
You don't have to explain yourself. Yes. You don't have to take it further. And so it's like, yes. So here, when I say that, I knew something wasn't right, but I kept on going, because I danced into a whole bunch of different fields, all traditional, I did a little bit of traditional, and then I got kicked out of medical very quickly because it didn't make sense. Within medicine, everything lined up. And then I go down the alternative path, and it was just like, everything looks okay here. So it's like, no one really could put a piece together. I needed the right provider to provide for me. I needed the right caretaker for me. And we say it's like, you can't be your own doctor. I 100% agree with that, but we're a doctor of our own healing. But when you say, okay, I need something not outside in, but I need someone to help put the pieces together of what am I missing to help bring my health to the highest level. And what happens, I'll say, is when we get busy, that knowingness gets quiet, that seeking out, because it's work to find someone to say this, it doesn't make sense. And then another 6 months goes by because all of a sudden life gets busy, or a year or two. And it's like, oh, that's right. I'm still having these issues. I'm still having hormone issues. I'm still having weight issues that I know aren't normal or healthy for me because I'm doing the right things. So it's just, I think it's a great point as we say that, going that but we quickly silence the but. And that's where chronic illnesses come in. That's where like that loss of authenticity comes in, and then lack of healing. Because I will say, part of my self-talk in the past, I've been really careful on this one, is like my body's just kind of broken. I do everything right, but just my body's does its own thing. And it's just like, no, that is going to break it down further. And it's like, stop that. Because my best friend, I'd shake them and say, that's absolutely not okay. But yet the things we say in our own head would be worse than what anyone else would say to us. So I had to really start critically thinking about how I thought and critically analyzing what are the signals my body's trying to tell me and not to diminish those signals.
Nice. So then how do we, and I don't really like the word balance because I believe that balance is how many times you cross over the midline, right? How, and I love this. So when you keep saying I was doing everything right, the image that keeps coming up in my mind is I have a checklist, right? And I'm doing all of these things right. But then there's this list back here that I can't even see. I need someone else's perspective to kind of pull it out and be like, what about this stuff? Is that what you're talking about having someone who helps you put the pieces together?
That's part of it. I think that was really a really good point to make, because it's like I went through, and I still go through, and I really believe in a lot of like therapy and support and everything else as well. It's like to bring that and that perspective out of the self-care meditation, really like, are you really calming the hell down? Because if you're go, 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 and I'll say in this profession, especially for us as women, it's like, if you're not go, 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 you feel like you're probably behind the 8 ball. And so that personality drives you to overlook. And so a lot of times it's like what's on that back list is rest, recuperation, just deep breathing, really taking care of yourself. But I knew, like, and when I say this, like, I want someone to bring the pieces together of hormone balancing, of digestive system, of what's happening in the chemistry of my body, going, something's not lining up. And this isn't something that's just eating right, getting adjusted. Like, no, because I'm doing those things, that's why I've been able to maintain and do so well, where probably otherwise I would have been massively sick, chronic issues and all that. Like, I have to totally honor that. And at the same time going, okay, if you still say there's still something missing from that ideal level that I know I can be at, let me enlist someone who can look through the forest, see the trees and go, ooh, did someone look at this? And let's maybe take that approach. And I think that's what is so beautiful about being in a profession that is holistic and healing and has so many diverse aspects of our profession, is I've really stayed within either chiropractic and naturopath. Like, that's it. And there's everyone's available and to help. And we look at health in many aspects. And I think that's just a beautiful way to turn inward to say, no, I do need support. I do need upliftment, and I need someone else's perspective right now to help me gain that greater perspective of what I also can be doing, or just acknowledging and working within.
You know, it makes me think of a strength overuse can become a weakness, right? Like I'm doing everything right, so it must just be I don't feel good today, or it's something I'll deal with later. Versus like, no, pause. I'm going to examine that. You know, in the boot camp, we've really been working through mind, consciousness, and thought, right? And how when we have a negative feeling, that's really and truly innate, saying, go back there, like examine that thought. And I think sometimes in our profession, we say so often symptoms don't matter. And I think it can actually hurt us because the symptoms are there for a reason. It doesn't mean like we just chase them all over, but we pay attention to them, right? Like there's a reason. Like innate isn't suddenly stupid and just randomly like, I think I'm gonna throw you a stomach ache. No, there's something that has to be investigated. And so a strength overuse can become a weakness in our own health, to be like, oh, I'm fine because I'm doing all of those things. And so before we went live, Kristina and I were talking about, she said, you know, when I was in chiro school, there wasn't really the awareness of healing your gut. There wasn't really the awareness of healing from vaccine injury. There wasn't really the awareness. And as I was listening to her, I was thinking like, why does there have to be lanes? And so then we decided to go live. And so we're going to pick that back up. Like in my mind, we're either healing or we're not, right? Like, why do we have to heal from the gut? Does the body not? So let's pick up there, because I know that you have brilliance in there.
Well, and I think it's a really good point to make, because you're right. We segment out our health and we wonder why we don't get full healing. Well, as soon as you limit that healing to segments, then it's never a whole approach. I think it's a really valid point to say of going, why are we looking for missing pieces? And I'll tie back into what you just said, because I think it's so important to say this. Chiropractors that are getting adjusted, that have a fully functioning nervous system, if you are having symptoms, innate is absolutely telling you something's not right. Like when I talk to my patients that are fully functioning, I go, no, what you're feeling is real. Like that's what's really cool, is you can trust how your body's responding to you, because it's now able to communicate. So if you as a chiropractor or as a chiropractic patient or a family, and you know that you're getting adjusted regularly and symptoms are still coming on, and it's like you're having this little pathway, it's like, no, pay attention and go, I honor the intelligence and organization of my body. What is it trying to tell me? What is it that I can be more whole within? Because we look at mind, body, spirit approach, and often it's one of going, what is lacking? And I say it's like within those lanes. I think a lot of times the lanes are, I'm a very good healer, very aware of other people, and I was very good at saying, like, I'm very good at trying to find the right word, but I want to keep it in a very positive context. This present mind consciousness, I'm excellent at doing that. I can disassociate from what's happening at home, with my kids, in my life, in my own health, because I need to be there for my patients. And I 100% agree with that present time consciousness. But there also has to be that reconnection of present time consciousness within here to say, what is going on? How am I doing? Like truly check in with yourself and allow those thought flashes to come through to have whole healing, whole connection, whole life, because we're meant to live an amazing, abundant life.
So let's look at it this way. I distinctly remember being at CalJam 2 or 3 years ago, and Ben Greenfield was speaking. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how he was making these like microscopic changes in order to measure results in his life. Like, did that mean I could bench more? Did that mean I could run faster? Like these, like teeny tiny little changes, right? And I remember sitting in the audience going, wow, it's like his body is a machine. Mm-hmm. And it's functioning so well that he can just like itty bitty thing and notice a difference, mm-hmm. right? So then I also have to say that I have coveted individuals who are so clean in their eating mm-hmm. that 1 gram of sugar puts them over the edge. And I think to myself, man, I'm so far from that physically at all. Like I could eat, like a whole cupful and not really notice, I think, because I'm like at this level, right? So for those of you who are listening and you subscribe to the like symptoms aren't important, I'm going to challenge you, because mm-hmm. probably in your own health, you're so dialed in that you're waiting for or listening to, or when you have a workout and there's something that's a little bit off, you make adjustment to that, right? Well, this is much the same, that our body innate is always on the job, giving us signals, giving us signs, giving us the next step that is necessary in order to bring us to wholeness and wealth and health and well-being. Mm-hmm. So what can individuals expect from Healing the Healer at the Women's Mind, Body, Spirit Boot Camp, October 9th and 10th in Gulf Shores, Alabama?
I know, I'm so excited. So I'm going to share my journey. I'm going to share the research. I'm going to share the testing, because it's cutting edge. It's leading within cancer research. But it's something that's not talked about because it's not part of mainstream pharmacology. And so most people have reached out. As I've been very transparent in this journey, I've had so many people reach out, so many chiropractors reach out and go, where do I get started? What can I do for me or a loved one? It's just, we don't know about this. And I can truly say, I believe like I've gotten a whole nother doctoral degree in the last year and a half with everything I've done. And I want to be I'm just going to share it. Here's everything that I went through in a very systematic, cancer-focused way. But I'm going to absolutely keep in that mindset of now with this perspective I have, what did I learn from this process? What is it? And I will say, what was I lacking? I think that's an important thing to say. What was I lacking in my life that I wasn't honoring? And then how do I choose to move forward? Because what could be the ultimate mistake is that I go back to the old Kristina of 2018 before all this came out and just go back into it. And then I didn't learn anything from this journey. And so it's the whole thing of now, what do I now know that I can share with other healers? Because what we do know is that when healers get sick, they're often the ones that get really seriously sick. It's interesting to know that. And we also look at chiropractors and we look at life expectancy of chiropractors. And it's not as high as we would hope it should be, because this is chiropractic, like really what's going on in our profession. And I think a lot of it is that we don't have that balance. And I will use that word balance on purpose. The balance between being a healer for others and then being in charge of our own healing. And we kind of just, we take such good care of other people that we give of ourselves. And so it's now that mindset of how do we move forward in love, in abundance, in acceptance, and in a place of willing to follow. I love that you have Demi coming in with the soul purpose. I love working with Wealth Factory. It's like I've worked with them for years. It's like what an amazing weekend this is going to be, because we look at what do you do that you love, and when you love what you do, it uplifts you. How do you carry that into having an abundant life, abundant family, a life full of deep, rich, meaningful experiences? It has to be that you love what you do every single day, or it's taxing from you. And one of the biggest things I learned by going and teaching at Parker for a year as faculty, and I loved it. I pulled out after a year because I missed being in practice. But I'll tell you as well, there was parts of my practice I didn't like. And I kind of ran away from those to go and teach. And what I quickly realized is I had an amazing practice. I have a unique practice. I have a high success practice in how I define success, because that matters. But what I realized was there was a few things I didn't like. It's like, then go change them. It's your practice. It's your life. Go change them. And that exactly, that kind of mindset I want to leave is going, what is in your life that you don't like? Great. Let's go talk about strategies to change it and be empowered and uplifted in the ability to do that.
And we don't have to beat ourselves up over it. Let's just become aware. And then if we don't know how, ask. Like it's super, one thing I love about working with Demi is when I make a request of her, she'll say, let's clarify that further. Mm. And it really just forces me to go, okay, well, actually, I said I needed this, but what I really need is this. So thank you so much, Kristina, for joining me. And I just, from both of us, if you're watching now or you watch this later, don't put this off. Get there. And your life doesn't have to be broken in order to come. Right? Like it doesn't have to be, this is my worst year ever, and that's why I'm going. No, not at all. Because listen, your energy of doing well this year is also really necessary. Like when we create the container, October 9th and 10th, all energies are necessary. And your story of triumph this year can be the springboard that somebody else then gets the encouragement and is able to see in themselves, if she can do it, I can do it. Yep. Right. So I want whatever excuse that you have right now for not coming, reach out to me or reach out to Kristina and let us help you work through that, because recognize that excuse is going to show up in lots of areas of your life. And what's on the other side of that excuse is the breakthrough that's necessary, I'm convinced, in many aspects. And we would love nothing more than to help you move through it so you can get over it and be well. I'm so happy this happened during my break so I could watch. It's so great to see your beautiful faces. Thank you, Iris. I hope we see you there. We're both coming for you to tell you.
I love Iris, so I'm thrilled that she's on. And then Debbie, I love it. What an amazing group this is. And I love what you just said. It's like, I want people to come that have had an amazing year, that have had breakthroughs. Like this is a year of massive introspection, that unless you had something that was tragic or that was heartbreaking, it's like that people I think that's the journey in going through a health crisis, is that it's a crisis, or going through an emotional crisis or a relationship crisis, is it's a crisis, and it allows you to look at your life. This year has brought about that for everyone to look at their life. And it may not be that you've had I hope you've had a stellar year. Get there because you need to share that energy and take it further, because your communities are ready for you. And if it hasn't been that year, that it's been stellar because you're still in that introspection, or the outside world isn't quite ready because they've shut us down and worked within it, then be ready. Like, show up. When you show up and you're ready to deliver, people and patients and practice members will flood to your doors because they need what we want or need what we have, and they want what we have. And it has changed so much. We've had a dramatic shift in the mindset of society. And if we had to go through all of this hoopla for what has happened with the mindset of people, it is absolutely worth it. And it's time for us to deliver the goods for our communities.
I agree. And remember, force equals mass times acceleration, right? Our own force in our home, in our community, in this profession is mass times acceleration. So if you've been going fast this year and having great success, then your force is higher, and it's time to keep it going, right? Like, it's also necessary to be around like-minded individuals. Like, how many times, and I said this the other day on a boot camp mastermind, many of you joined the boot camp because you wanted to be around like-minded individuals. Mm-hmm. And the reason we want to be around like-minded individuals is it gives us the fertile ground to grow further, yes, to expand our consciousness further, to get ideas and downloads for what's next. So remember that imagination tells our mind what's next. Mm-hmm. Well, many times when we're in acceleration, we forget about imagination. Many times when we're in the ick, we forget about imagination. So your mind creates the blueprint of your reality. So we know exactly what's in your mind. We look at your reality. So if you want to change reality, it starts right there. This is the recipe. This is the blueprint. These are the instructions right here. So Dr. Kristina, thank you so much for joining me today.
Love you. So excited to see you in person, and lots of hug. It's going to be a hug fest. It's going to be exactly how it needs to be. And I'm also so thrilled that it's women focused, because we have a powerhouse and an opportunity as women to bring. And it's something that's like, when I graduated, I have a feeling the same for you, Barbara. We were the minority. So I love what's happening and the energy and the ability to take it further for healing. So it's going to be awesome.
That's right. Bring it on, ladies. We'll see you October 9th and 10th, Gulf Shores, Alabama. Have a wonderful day. God bless you. See ya. Bye.